'cause I'll get all balled up inside, and I'll get whiskey bent and hell-bound. Honky-tonk special I found, just as sure as the morning sun comes, thinking of my sweet girl at home, and I need to get whiskey bent and hell-bound. They need a song about a rambling man, put old Jim Beam in my hand, 'cause you know I still love to get drunk and hear country sounds. But don't play your cheap heart, 'cause that'll tear me all apart. I get whiskey bent and hell-bound. Yeah, old Hank song always make me feel down.
Whiskey Bent and Hell-Bound by Hank Williams Jr. With his career now rolling in high gear, Hank Jr. talked about still another hit, his #1 record, Texas Women.
Texas Women was a nice #1 surprise. Anti-urban cowboy. Most of mine drive a point across pretty good. I got rights, or the good old American way, or the dinosaur. It was an anti-urban cowboy thing, and the darn thing was a smash.
I've got some fond memories of San Angelo, and I've seen some beauty queens in El Paso, but the best-looking women that I've ever seen have all been in Texas and all wearing jeans. I'm a country plowboy, not a urban cowboy, and I don't ride bulls, but I have fought some men. Drive a pickup truck, trusting God and luck, and I live to love Texas women. I thought I'd seen beauty in faraway places till I looked upon those Houston faces. Spent Hollywood nights up in Beverly Hills, but they weren't nothing like one night down in Brownsville. I'm a country plowboy, not an urban cowboy, and I don't ride bulls, but I have fought some men. Drive a pickup truck, trusting God and luck, and I live to love Texas women. I'm a pretty fair judge of the opposite sex, and I ain't seen nothing that will touch 'em yet. They may be from Waco or out in Lampasas, but one thing about it, they all come from Texas. I'm a country plowboy, not an urban cowboy, and I don't ride bulls, but I have fought some men. Drive a pickup truck, trusting God and luck, and I live to love Texas women. I'm an oily fan, not a soccer man, and my arms are red, and so is my blood, and they make it boil with that soft Texas drawl, and I love them all, Texas women.
And that's Texas Women. Hank Jr. talked about his life and his outlook in the 1980s.
Oh, I'm real happy with it. I used to ride around in cars, and then buses that would break down, and buses that would sometimes break down, and now a plane that just breaks down now and then, you know, and I got Lake House on Smith Lake, Lake House at Kentucky Lake. Just come from Alaska, going to Mexico next month, back to Africa in August for my third trip. Like to see up on them signs, sold out, when we play somewhere. When you pick up a book and Johnny Cash or Waylon Jennings is talking about you, it's a great feeling when your first name is H.W. It's a tough act to follow.
Randall Hank Williams, Jr. has risen to the status of a true star with increasing evidence that he is assembling a new legend, his very own. Next, we'll remember Johnny Horton when the history of country music continues. The history of country music continues with Johnny Horton. Many early country songs were story songs, but by the mid-1950s, the country charts and those of other popular forms of music were filled with love songs. At the end of the 50s, folk music was beginning its upsurge, and country music was again enjoying saga songs. One of the most successful of these was the 1959 Johnny Horton hit, The Battle of New Orleans.
In 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans, and we caught the bloody British in a town in New Orleans. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. We looked down the river and we see the British come, and there must have been 100 of them beating on the drum. They stepped so high and they made the bugles ring. We stood beside our cotton bales and didn't say a thing. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Old Hickory said we could take them by surprise if we didn't fire muskets till we looked them in the eye. We held our fire till we see their faces well, then we opened up our squirrel guns and really gave them well. We fired our guns and the British kept coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, they ran through the briars and they ran through the brambles and they ran through the bushes where a rabbit couldn't go. They ran so fast that the hounds couldn't catch them on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. We fired our cannon till the barrel melted down, so we grabbed an alligator and we fought another round. We filled his head with cannonballs and powdered his behind, and when we touched the powder off, the gator lost his mind. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, they ran through the briars and they ran through the brambles and they ran through the bushes where a rabbit couldn't go. They ran so fast that the hounds couldn't catch them on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
The Battle of New Orleans, a #1 million-selling record for Johnny Horton, was written by Jimmy Driftwood, based on an old fiddle tune called The 8th of January. In 1959, it won Grammy Awards as Song of the Year and Best Country and Western Song. Raised in East Texas, Johnny Horton, the singing fisherman, was a star of the Louisiana Hayride, where he helped support more traditional country music in the face of the rockabilly movement. Country songs have long provided excellent theme material for motion pictures, and no country singer has gotten more mileage out of this than Johnny. In 1960, Johnny Horton had a top 10 hit with Sink the Bismarck.
In May of 1941, the war had just begun. The Germans had the biggest ship that had the biggest guns. The Bismarck was the fastest ship that ever sailed the sea. On her decks were guns as big as steers and shells as big as trees.
Out of the cold and foggy night came the British ship, the Hood. And every British seaman he knew and understood they had to sink the Bismarck, the terror of the sea. Stop those guns as big as steers and those shells as big as trees. They find that German battleship that's making such a fuss. We gotta sink the Bismarck, cause the world depends on us. Hit the decks are running, boys, and spin those guns around. But when we find the Bismarck, we gotta cut her down. The Hood found the Bismarck, and on that fatal day, the Bismarck started firing 15 miles away. We gotta sink the Bismarck, was the battle sound. But when the smoke had cleared away, the mighty Hood went down. For 6 long days and weary nights, they tried to find her trail. Churchill told the people, put every ship a sail, cause somewhere on that ocean, I know she's gotta be. We gotta sink the Bismarck to the bottom of the sea. They find that German battleship that's making such a fuss. We gotta sink the Bismarck, cause the world depends on us. Hit the decks are running, boys, and spin those guns around. When we find the Bismarck, we gotta cut her down. The fog was gone the 7th day, and they saw the morning sun. 10 hours away from homeland, the Bismarck made its run. The admiral of the British fleet said, turn those bows around. We found that German battleship, and we're gonna cut her down. The British guns were aimed and the shells were coming fast. The first shell hit the Bismarck, they knew she couldn't last. That mighty German battleship is just a memory. Sink the Bismarck was the battle cry that shook the 7 seas. We found that German battleship was making such a fuss. We had to sink the Bismarck cause the world depends on us. We hit the deck a-running and we spun those guns around. Yeah, we found that mighty Bismarck and we had to cut her down. We found that German battleship for making such a fuss. We had to sink the Bismarck cause the world depends on us. We hit the deck a-running and we spun those guns around. We found that mighty Bismarck and then we cut her down.
Sink the Bismarck by Johnny Horton. Singer-songwriter Merle Kilgore told how Johnny once helped him when he really needed the help.
My wife was in the hospital having a baby, premature, and I owed $5,000 in back hospital bills, no insurance. He said, that song you wrote, Johnny Reb. I said, yeah. Do you like it? He said, well, not really, but let me have a copy of that. I said, okay. And he called me and he says, you want to hear my new record? It was in Nashville. I said, yeah, I'd love to hear it. Thought all the way, Johnny Reb. And we got 500,000 orders for the advance, because I think Ballad New Orleans sold 3 million right off the bat. Is now, the song is unpublished. You go make yourself a deal and get you $5,000 advance. So at the hayride that night, the word got around that I had Johnny's follow-up to Ballad New Orleans. Shelby Singleton comes to me, he says, man, who's got the publishing on that song? I said, nobody. And he says, I gotta have it. Man, I need it real bad. And he was just a salesman for Mercury Records. I said, I gotta have $5,000 to pay off those bills. And he says, Merle, I promise you, I haven't got it, but I'll have it by Monday. Can I have the publishing? I said, sure. And he went and hocked his house and gave me the money.
Another movie theme that hit for Johnny Horton was the title song from the motion picture North to Alaska.
Way up north to Alaska. Way up north to Alaska. North to Alaska. Go north for Russia's home. North to Alaska. Go north for Russia's home. Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the Yukon River and found the Bonanza Gold below that old white mountain just a little southeast of Nome. Sam crossed the majestic mountains to the valleys far below. He talked to his team of huskies as he mushed on through the snow, with the northern lights a-running wild in the land of the midnight sun. Yes, Sam McCord was a mighty man in the year of 1901, where the river is winding, big nuggets they're finding. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. Way up north, way up north. North to Alaska, go north, the rush is on. North to Alaska, go north.